Welcome to part 1 of my Marvel Animated Universe montage. Today we start off with the mutant supergroup, the X-Men. That theme music. Now, if like me you grew up in the 1990s, then this theme song connected with you immediately and stuck with you forever. There are tons of cartoons that you'll hear me utter the words iconic, best ever, and so on, but this series beyond a shadow of a doubt ranks as one of my all-time favorite cartoon shows. Now, unlike some people who read the comics and then watch the show, it was the other way around for me, and over time I learned where the show drew its story inspirations from. And I credit it with really getting me invested more in comic books, more so than any other DC or Marvel franchise. With the X-Men, it was a tale of bigotry and acceptance. A group of mutants with extraordinary abilities under the guidance of Professor Charles Xavier, formed to protect a world that hates their very existence. The dynamic of the X-Men is very unique and different to other Marvel heroes. On one hand, they are protecting people against evil villains. And on the other hand, however, the people they protect are bigots and are never accepting of them as they are mutants and they are often wished death upon. This is such a brilliant narrative that it plays into three very different viewpoints on dealing with the existence of humans. On one hand, you have Professor Charles Xavier, who is of the belief that humans and mutants can coexist peacefully with hard work and understanding. Then you have his best friend turned enemy in Magneto, who believes that mutants cannot coexist with humans and they are the next step in human evolution and they must fight to be the superior race. And the third viewpoint comes in the form of one of the X-Men's greatest villains in Apocalypse. Legend has it that he was the very first mutant on Earth originating from ancient Egypt. He is of the belief that he is the next step in evolution and both mutants and humans must be wiped out of existence. So, three very different and contrasting points of view on dealing with humans. The show, especially the first season, had a number of episodes with ongoing story arcs with callbacks which built to a season climax. A perfect illustration of this is when the X-Men take on the Sentinels. Mutant-hating Henry Gyrick, who works for the government, enlists the help of Boulevard Trask, whom is responsible for creating the Sentinels in an effort to control mutants. Gyrick goes rogue after being told by the government to shut down the Sentinel program. Behind the government's back, they relocate to Genosha to continue their work.
Of this one permanently.
They end up creating a powerful Sentinel called Master Mold as the ultimate weapon to controlling and capturing mutants. In a great twist, Master Mold becomes self-aware and turns on the duo.
You can't make me do this! You were designed to protect humans from mutants!
That is not logical. Mutants are human. Therefore, humans must be protected from themselves.
The end result forces Magneto to team up with the X-Men and take on Master Mold, with Trask being forced to help destroy his creation. This was just a great example of excellent storytelling with twists and turns at every corner. With the X-Men themselves, there was drama and conflict aplenty. Xavier was the founder and the creator of the group, and he fought tirelessly for his cause, as well as keeping the X-Men on side. Cyclops, the leader of the group, whilst dealing with his personal demons as a child, his romance with Jean Grey, and often butting heads with Wolverine. He had his own plethora of issues, including a very mysterious origin. Rogue, who was cursed with not being able to touch people physically, which led to a complicated on-off relationship with Gambit. Storm, who was the second in command of the X-Men and the voice of reason. She too had her problems, specifically with claustrophobia. Beast, who was the mild-mannered genius who had to deal with his outer appearances. Jubilee, the youngster of the group, has to deal with being both a mutant as well as the adolescence of being a teenager. Gambit, the lone wolf, like Wolverine, has a past shrouded in mystery, and this is expanded on the episode Externally Yours.
This is not my home. I am not thief or assassin. I am an X-Man, and I'm never coming back.
And rounding off with Jean Grey, she has two major story arcs built around her in both the Phoenix and the Dark Phoenix sagas, which were taken directly from the comic books and adapted into a little mini-series. These stories, I felt, illustrated her value to the group and added more depth to her character. And then of course there was her love relationship with Cyclops and the complicated added factor of Wolverine. A great feature of the X-Men was the villains. Now, like a lot of superheroes, the X-Men had their rogue gallery of unique characters. You had Omega Red and Sabretooth, both with past connections with Wolverine. Mystique and her connections with Rogue. The Friends of Humanity, who were all about the elimination of mutants, led by Creed. His hatred of mutants becomes clear when it's revealed whom he's related to.
Home, Edmonton, Alberta. Real name?
No!
Graydon Creed, Sr.
Graydon Creed Sr.? Like father, like son.
What are you looking at? I hate him! I'm not like him! I'm normal! Get out of there! All of you!
One of my personal favorite villains in the series.
My name is Sinister. Mr. Sinister.
His purpose is to take mutants to the next step of evolution by using experiments which could enhance their powers. You could say it's similar to what we know of Apocalypse. His look was very unique and menacing, so the title Sinister fit him very appropriately. The already mentioned Apocalypse, as Xavier aptly put it,
A powerful mutant, driven completely mad by his powers.
the real threat of Apocalypse, I feel, is highlighted in the 4-part story arc Beyond Good and Evil, where he has found the ability to travel through space and time, and puts together a plan to kidnap all psychic-powered mutants in an effort to completely wipe out all of existence and rebuild it in his own image. His plan is such that some of the X-Men's greatest foes align with him to pull this off. And then finally you had Magneto, Xavier's best friend turned enemy. This was a rather unique relationship because more often than not they were allies, especially during the whole run of Season 2, where they were lured into a trap by Sinister into the Savage Lands, and they were forced to work together, especially as they were both stripped of their powers. They are both on opposite sides of the fence with the issues of humans and mutants. I felt this series depicted Magneto in a more sympathetic fashion as opposed to his comic origins. He comes off as more of a tweener as opposed to an out-and-out villain.
Goodbye, my friend.
The universe of the X-Men is so vast and rich in history that the show left out a plethora of characters from the comics to be regulars. Characters like Colossus, Archangel, Psylocke, Iceman, Kitty Pryde, most of which are reduced to guest appearances on the show. You do have reoccurring characters like Cable and Bishop, who often play key roles in specific episodes. There were also two personal favourite story arcs from the comics that I really wish they could have brought into the show. The first being the Age of Apocalypse saga, in which Xavier was murdered accidentally by his son, and as a result, a new world emerged with huge changes, like Magneto as the leader of the X-Men, Cyclops is now aligned with Mr. Sinister, Jean Grey and Wolverine are a couple, and Apocalypse is the ruler in this universe.
Such power and destruction. I'm not capable of mastering anything like that. I can't.
Electronic fuse! What in the world?
The second is the Onslaught saga, which also brought in other major characters from the Marvel Universe. The saga sees a being created from the manifestation of Charles Xavier and Magneto's dark sides, which forms the entity known as Onslaught. It was a very long and convoluted story in the comic books, but as the makers of this show did very well with story adaptations from the comics, I feel they could have done this story arc justice. The series was supposed to have ended after the Beyond Good and Evil saga, but it got greenlit for a 5th and final season. Unfortunately, there were drawbacks with this. You do notice a huge drop in the quality of the animation. This was in large part due to Marvel's financial woes in the 90s. They had filed for bankruptcy in 96 and could no longer afford to pay for the original animation the show was known for. So what you were left with was animation that was well below the standards set for the first 4 seasons of the show. But thankfully, the storylines remained strong and compelling and kept the same tone that the series had maintained throughout its whole run. What did I enjoy about the show? I love the action, the drama of the storytelling, the suspense, especially when some stories were left on a cliffhanger.
The mortal Jean Grey is no more. I am fire made flesh, power incarnate. I am the Dark Phoenix.
The interesting villains throughout the show's run. There were also some cameos from other Marvel heroes, which I appreciated. Now, if only there had been an Avengers vs X-Men story arc in this series. As far as pet peeves go, well, maybe the voice acting when you listen to it in this day and age isn't the best and can come off as cheesy. Maybe there were a few too many episodes that focused on specific characters, and as a result you didn't always have the full team. Or there were stretches of time when characters were missing or had very little interaction. I guess that's the trials and tribulations of doing a universe on a group of superheroes as opposed to the solo stars. The impact of the show is very long lasting. People my age reminisce on what a great show it was, and thanks to Disney Plus, it can be revisited for great nostalgic fun. It has also created new generations of fans who were not around or were too young to remember the 90s. With comic book characters more popular than ever before thanks to the success of the MCU, the DCEU, this show is just as relevant now as it was back then. There's even been talk from the makers about doing a possible revival. We can only hope. Yes, there were follow-up shows like X-Men Evolution, Wolverine and the X-Men, and the single episode of the 1989 X-Men show. But for me, and I'm sure countless fans, X-Men the animated series takes its place as number 1.